Hey everybody, 16 ounce setups here. If you're anything like me, you've been eyeballing the ultrawide versus regular monitor debate for a while now, and fortunately prices in the monitor scene have started to come down a bit to the point where people might start to be looking at ultrawides. I recently purchased an ultrawide and I just wanted to give my quick opinion on the differences between the two to see if you might want to upgrade. So the first thing you need to ask yourself is if you need an ultrawide monitor. If you're considering this, I think it's obvious that you're looking for some more screen real estate. The traditional route that people take is just throw in an extra monitor onto their existing setup to have a 2 to 3 monitor layout. I think the ultrawide monitor is for the person that does not want a cluttered look in their setup. I think sometimes multiple monitors can look a little bit too crazy, definitely not very minimal. So by having one ultrawide monitor instead of 2 to 3 regular monitors, you're foregoing a lot of the clutter that you can see with some unsymmetrical setups. That's not to say you can't have an additional monitor with your ultrawide. In fact, I think there are some great layouts out there that have a base ultrawide monitor and a secondary monitor above the ultrawide itself. This gives a nice, clean, symmetrical look. But that's just really discussing the differences between an ultrawide monitor or having multiple monitors. There are also some other benefits to ultrawides. One being immersion, and I think this will be a huge benefit for a lot of people out there. If you watch widescreen media, watching movies is absolutely awesome. If you're a gamer, I'd say video games are much more immersive, but there are some drawbacks to this, which we'll talk about a little later. Additionally, I think productivity takes a huge leap forward here, especially if you're on particular programs like video editors, audio editors, anything that really uses an elongated layout to show more data. The left to right scroll is heavily minimized, as you can just see a lot more information on your screen at once. I'm sure this applies to a lot of other industries as well. And any programs that don't benefit from this horizontal data feed, you can simply just drag to the left or right sides of your ultrawide and have multiple windows up simultaneously, kind of mimicking the effect of a dual screen layout. And again, I think this will sometimes look nicer than dual monitors without losing any of the functionality. There are of course some cases where I would recommend not changing to an ultrawide monitor. Piggybacking off of the program discussion, there are some applications and games that will not work with the ultrawide resolution. Fortunately, this is becoming increasingly rare. You just have to do the due diligence for the particular programs that you use to figure out if they'll work with your ultrawide setup. This goes for media as well. If you're watching TV shows or internet media with the more square-like 4:3 or 16:9 aspect ratios, you may have black bars on the sides of your screen. Again, this is highly dependent on what you are watching. As stated before, media in the widescreen format looks absolutely awesome. You really just got to think about what you're going to be watching on a regular basis. A few minor cases where you might not want to upgrade are if you're in a really small space and you really just don't have the physical capacity for an ultrawide monitor, or maybe you want to go in the opposite direction and you need 3 to 4 to 5 monitors to really scratch your ultimate productivity itch. Also, I haven't seen this mentioned a whole lot in ultrawide reviews, but if you have intense vertigo or issues with nausea, perhaps try an ultrawide monitor out in person before you buy one. More on this later. And finally, there's no getting around this one. Ultrawide monitors still are more expensive than their standard monitor counterparts. Alright, so now you've decided you want an ultrawide monitor, and I'm not going to dive heavily into the technical differences and specifications between different models, but I will touch on the functional differences for the regular person. And to me, this boils down to having a flat versus curved ultrawide. Now we have curved monitors because we want an equivalent distance from our eyes to the screen across all aspects of a monitor, and this effect is increased the wider your monitor gets. Now it's going to be complete personal preference when you're deciding between a flat and curved monitor. Personally, with smaller screens, I don't notice that much of a difference, and therefore I'm not a fan. I think flat screens look a lot better. But there comes a point where the benefits do outweigh the cons, and this 34-inch ultrawide that I have, I think benefits from the curve. But again, totally personal preference. Try out some in person to see if you like it. Now we're going to discuss some functional differences that I've noticed between having a regular monitor and an ultrawide monitor, and I think this will really be the juice of the video. So when I was shopping around for monitors, I was really torn between buying a second monitor or just ditching everything for an ultrawide. And after buying the ultrawide, I can say that I personally don't have the need for 2 screens. Most everything that I do can be done simultaneously on this ultrawide. It's super easy to have 2 windows open at the same time, and I don't notice any functional difference. The one area I have noticed a decrease in productivity is when I'm gaming and I need to switch over to Discord to talk to my friends for a second or switch over to another application. I don't have a secondary monitor for that, but again, I think the pros outweigh the cons here. I think the single ultrawide looks much better. Another massive difference I've noticed is that productivity is much more efficient. I'm in FL Studio when I'm making music or recording audio for videos. I'm in DaVinci Resolve when I'm editing videos themselves. And just having this elongated, streamlined look of data is super nice. I don't have to scroll in and out as much. Navigation across projects is much easier. So productivity has definitely taken a huge leap forward here. Perhaps an obvious positive difference is immersion. And I'm talking about gaming here, which is one of the reasons why I bought an ultrawide monitor. Games just look absolutely insane. It feels like you're totally immersed. It's really easy to be just kind of taken into whatever world that you're in. And an aspect of immersion I did not foresee was with widescreen movies. I happened to pop something open and I was watching it and I noticed it took the full screen, which I did not anticipate, and it just immersed me in the movie as well. Another positive change is just the minimal look that an ultrawide can provide over 2 or 3 monitors. It's just one component on your desk as opposed to multiple. I think it just looks that much better. And in the same vein, if you have a pretty large desk, an ultrawide can really fill out the rest of your desk space and kind of complete the whole look as opposed to having one smaller monitor on a larger space. Of course, there are going to be some negatives. I initially experienced a large sense of vertigo for the first maybe 5 to 10 minutes I was gaming on this thing. Not something I really anticipated at all, as I usually don't have issues with things like that, but after 10 minutes the feeling subsided and it seemed like my brain got used to it. Really something you should consider if you experience sensations of vertigo on a regular basis. As stated before, if you just try this out beforehand, you should be able to figure out if this will affect you or not. Some other minor negative differences include websites looking odd in full screen. Again, the text won't necessarily fill out the whole space. You will have issues with some media as you'll have vertical black bars. This was mentioned previously, and again, you really just want to consider what kind of media you consume on a daily basis. A big difference that I noticed from my prior 2-screen setup is that it can be difficult to access other windows when you're in a full screen application. Again, I'm thinking when you're playing a game and you want to access Discord to the side, having a single ultrawide monitor will not allow you to do this. And the final obvious difference is that ultrawide monitors are just more expensive than their counterparts. There's no getting around this. As the technology improves, price will come down, but this may be a major factor for you. Ultimately, I think you really need to analyze what you use your computer for to determine if ultrawide monitors can be right for your setup. I'd say you should stick with a regular monitor if you watch specific media, if you're in a smaller space, if you use niche applications or play specific games, if you're susceptible to extreme vertigo, or if you're just trying to squeeze the most performance per dollar out of your monitor. If none of these things apply to you, then definitely consider an ultrawide. I think you can definitely maximize your screen real estate without having multiple monitors. I think productivity takes a huge step forward. I think gaming and media becomes much more immersive. And really, I think one single ultrawide monitor is much more aesthetically pleasing than 2 or 3 symmetrical and especially non-symmetrical monitors. But these are all my opinions. As I've said numerous times throughout this video, you really have to determine what is going to be applicable to your setup. Use your opinion and what you like in your life to kind of figure out if your monitor needs an upgrade or if you want to stick with what you have. And I think that's going to about do it for this video. As always, this is 16-ounce setups. This week I'm pulling shots from Black and White Coffee's Happy Birthday Supernatural Blend. I usually like pulling shots from interesting and funky flavors, especially from unique blends and roasts. I think espresso just tastes a little more different than regular filter coffee, so always fun to experiment. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.